So Bayonetta. I don't remember exactly where I heard of her first, but I think it was a little after her debut game, developed by Platinum Games, came out around 2010. Though only for a brief clip. But the game looked like a ton of fun, but for whatever reason I didn't get around to it at the time. Not even its sequel Bayonetta 2 when it first came out. But to be fair, I think I had some, other plans at the time. Though ironically, about a year later, Bayonetta would end up getting into Smash, which caught me completely off guard. I really thought a character like her couldn't get in, but oh man, I'm glad she did. So with her now being in Smash, I figured now was the time to finally get into the original game. Unfortunately, everyone else had the same idea, and the Wii U version of Bayonetta 1, which came with Bayonetta 2, suddenly became incredibly high in price. Thankfully, I did manage to find mine on eBay for a relatively small price. Though for today, I'm going to be looking at the recent PC port of the game, which is by far the best running version of the game now. But the Wii U version of the game is fine too, and it does come with special Nintendo themed costumes that you can use right from the start. There's a Peach, Daisy, Link, and Samus outfit that not only change stuff in your attacks, but also changes sound effects and some currency. But really though, use the Samus skin. It's easily my favorite costume in any version of the game, as you get the blaster and you can move the visor up and down during cutscenes, completely destroying the mood in them, may I add. Though I should say the Xbox 360 version of the game is fine as well, especially if you own an Xbox One, as it's backwards compatible and makes the game run a bit better. However, there's one version of the game you should stay away from. The PlayStation 3 version. Look, I love this system, but this port is a complete mess. This one wasn't handled by Platinum Games, and it shows. The frame rate is all over the place, long loading times, and tons of slowdown. This is by far the worst way to play the game. Even a low-end PC can run the Steam version better than this. Trust me. So with all that out of the way, let's get started. The story of Bayonetta revolves a lot around the amnesia of our good old Umber Witch, Bayonetta. Basically, there are three realms: Paradiso, which is heaven and controlled by the Lumen Sages, Inferno, which is hell and run by the Umber Witches, and then the human world with the rest of us. Well, okay, there's Purgatorio, which is the space in between the realms, but you know. The Lumen Sages and Umber Witches agreed to maintain balance between the two realms, but that all changed when one Umber Witch and a Lumen Sage had a child and the two clans had a war against each other, with both races being almost completely wiped out. It's been 500 years and Bayonetta has awakened as one of the last Umber Witches, but she has amnesia and can't remember anything, so she goes on a quest to find out who she really is. Along the way, she'll have to fight several angels that stop her path, go against Jean, an Umber Witch who wants vengeance against Bayo, and stop the resurrection of the creator Jubileus. There's a lot that happens, but mostly it's just flavor text. At the end of the day, the story is about Bayonetta coming to terms with who she really is. That's really about it. So how does that journey look? Bayonetta, as a game released in the 7th generation of consoles, holds up incredibly well. The character models look spot on and full of life and animate very smoothly. Even down to simple details like winking to the extravagant finishers, everything is just animated right at the level it needs to be. Areas also look fantastic and keep changing up the environment all around you and keep your eyes engaged. From the fire of a burning town, to the calmness of Paradiso, to the high speed of Route 666, everything keeps changing around you, creating a fresh experience with every chapter as you go along the game. Well, the only one bad environment I would say is the water in this boss fight. Seriously, that just looks like jello with a texture. But trust me, the PC version just makes all the assets look even better. And other versions of the games would have some big slowdown issues. The PC one though, rock solid 60 frames per second and it feels good. Now, not every cutscene in the game is fully animated. A lot of the time the game will switch to a film strip style of cutscene, where they're animated somewhat. I'm kinda mixed on these. I think it's a cool style, but I think there's a bit too many of them and I wish there was more happening in some of the stills because they can go on for a while and they stay on uninteresting shots for long stretches of time. Next up is the voice acting. Now the Wii U version actually added a Japanese dub, which is odd considering even the Japanese version only had an English one before, but the English I do have to say holds up well. There's a bad voice here and there like say young Luca, but the really good ones make up for it, like Rodan, Jean, Cereza, and especially Bayonetta. Speaking of which is that a pun? Never mind. But speaking of Bayonetta, her voice actress, Helena Taylor, really sells it for me, and feels like a perfect fit for the character. And then there's this little thing in the game known as its soundtrack. This soundtrack is so freaking good! There's many atmospheric pieces for when you're exploring, and big orchestral themes for the boss fights, which are all great. But the fantastic ones are the Bayonetta fights. There's a very jazzy style of music that Bayonetta has for certain tracks, and these become so freaking good. Bayonetta the Mystery, Time for the Climax, and of course, Fly Me to the Moon are easily the best tracks by far. Fly Me to the Moon in particular is a song that keeps getting stuck in my head over and over and I can't get out, and I'm not complaining one bit. Which, by the way, turning a Frank Sinatra song into a battle theme? Props. So Bayonetta's presentation looks fantastic even today, but has the gameplay aged as well as it looks? So Bayonetta is a hack and slash character action game. You pick a chapter to explore, pull some levers, do some slight platforming, but mostly you're there to beat the ever-living crap out of anything that moves. You have punches and kicks which you can interchange in order to perform different combos, with most ending in a wicked weave attack, aka a giant hand, foot, or whatever comes out dealing massive damage. And if you hold a button down, you can get a little extra effects, such as for the guns, firing them at an enemy for extended damage. You can equip weapons to both your arms and legs and carry 2 sets at a time. But the big thing you want to pay attention for when battling is opportunities for witch time. See, when an enemy attacks you, if you dodge at the very last moment, you can enter witch time. Everything moves in slow motion around you and then you can lay the beat down. This skill is your friend and learn to dodge everything to get this to happen. Now along the way you have this magic mirror up here used for torture attacks. Once you see it, press the 2 buttons and proceed to lay the beat down on, yeah. But after you finish them, you can take their weapon and use it for their own. Hot tip, use the pull. I know it's weird, but this attack does stupid amounts of damage and it has amazing range. Use this whenever you can. At the end of each fight, you're ranked on your combo count, your time, and damage taken. And from that get an overall rank. These add up to the end of the level where you get a trophy for that chapter, ranging from anything from a stone to a pure platinum. Now in boss fights, combat works a little different, mainly because Bayonetta will let her hair down and now every attack you do is a wicked weave. So yeah, feel free to bring the pain. And then for the big part, the climax. Yeah, that's what it's called. Anyway, in a game like Bayonetta, the boss doesn't simply go in a puff of smoke or anything like that. No. You summon a demon from your hair and you absolutely destroy them until nothing remains. And I mean nothing remains. Now whenever you're not fighting, you can explore the levels to find some extra goodies, such as hearts or pearls to increase your magic and health, Alpine portals which lead you to bonus challenges where you can attempt to get some extra goodies, LPs, no, not Let's Plays. It's a record, okay? Once you find all the pieces to that, you can unlock a new weapon or travel to the Gates of Hell, a shop run by Rodan, that sells you new moves, items, accessories to give you an edge in battle, etc. And after each level, you will do a little mini game called Angel Attack, where you play it like an arcade shooter and earn points to buy items or exchange them for halos, or cash. And because I really can't transition to this into any point, but later on you will gain access to some animal transformation, being a panther, bat, and crow. And please get these ASAP, these will help you so much you have no idea. And that's about it when it comes to the gameplay of Bayonetta. So what's good in this little witch's journey? So the good in Bayonetta, well, there's a lot honestly. First off, the game itself just has this great feeling of satisfaction whenever you play it. The combat, despite you basically doing the same thing over and over, never feels like the same thing each time. Mainly because of the enemy variety, the game changing the scenario all the time, and just how much depth there is to the combat system as well. And I think the game wouldn't be nearly as fun without the character of Bayonetta. She just makes every scene she's in turn into so much fun to watch. Whether it be her style of humor, her no-chill kind of attitude, or just seeing some of the absolute craziness from her fights, it just makes you want to see whatever she does next and makes for a great main character. And before anyone says she's too sexualized, she was designed by a woman, people, I'm just saying. The game itself also has a great sense of fun to it too. Nothing in the game feels like it's taking itself too seriously, and it's just silly, ridiculous, and fun all around. The combat system is also great as well, with different combinations of weapons you can get on your hands and feet, new moves and items that you can get from the shop, and using your environment around you to influence the battle. The combat always feels fresh in every fight, and it requires a lot of finesse keeping you engaged. Even equipping, say, a katana to your hands completely changes how you think about going into combat, so it keeps you experimenting and wanting to play better and better. Especially when witch time is a factor that helps skilled players get bigger payoffs by taking more risks by holding the dodge until the very end. And of course, the best part of those fights, the climax. What I love about it is that it knows exactly what the player wants to feel like after long battles like this. You mash the buttons to get every last ounce of pain out you can, and it just acts as a big old stamp declaring you won and leaves you with such an emotional high afterwards. And those bosses are easily some of the game's biggest highlights. They're gigantic, daunting, and really have some truly imaginative and fun scenarios, such as fighting in a whirlpool, jumping around a tornado and then riding on the boss you're fighting, and of course performing a WWE slam on a dragon head.
Can you believe this? F5!
It's the little things in life, and I won't spoil it, but that final boss, whoo, boy, that is something you need to experience for yourself. The game is also brimmed with replay value, thanks to its ranking system that makes you want to keep improving your score to get that platinum or even pure platinum if you're crazy enough for it. I'll find challenges that really put your skills to the test in unique scenarios, such as limited kicks or punches or having to fight while keeping a clone of yourself safe, multiple difficulties to unlock including one that completely removes witch time, oh dear lord help me, and some extras if you manage to stay with the game for long enough. Though, letting you know, if you buy that platinum ticket, good luck, that's all I can say. Bayonetta is a non-stop thrill ride from beginning to end that lovers of this genre need to give a shot. It's just a shame there are some things holding it back from all that it could be. My first major problem comes down to the pacing of the plot. See, the game is fast-paced in-your-face action, so why does it feel like every time you're in a cutscene it just drags on, and on, and on, and on. And oh my god, are we done with the flashbacks yet? Seriously, these cutscenes go on but it feels like forever. Because the story really loves taking its time to explain lore that really doesn't impact what's going on. And it doesn't help that Bayonetta keeps getting flashbacks to her past, a lot of the time in the same scenes. Multiple times. Shot for shot. Sometimes even back to back. And man, it takes such a large portions of this game's gameplay time. And that's one of the reasons I just couldn't find myself getting into the plot. Honestly, the only thing I cared about in the plot was figuring out what was the deal with this little girl, and that was about it. I didn't care for Luca going around in circles about his father. I couldn't care about John's whole deal, and especially not this guy's love for Jubileus.
Jubileus. Jubileus. Jubileus. Jubileus. Jubileus. Jubileus.
This is mostly a problem with your first playthrough as you're able to skip cutscenes, but again, that's on your first playthrough and you're not going to be skipping cutscenes during that. It's going to be what causes you to break most often. You also really can't enjoy the cutscenes to their full extent on your first playthrough because of two big reasons. One, something I don't hear brought up much, but a lot of the cutscenes end with an enemy attacking you and you need to dodge right as the cutscene ends. And this still goes even if you skip the cutscenes, so it's basically a cheap shot when you're hunting for those platinums, and that's a dead run right there. And then there's the one you're gonna learn to hate real quick. Those QuickTime events. In certain scenes there will randomly be a QuickTime event that you need to perform. Now the climax is no problem there because it's always activated by you, so you know that's coming and it feels so satisfying. But the other ones just show up out of nowhere when you're just trying to enjoy a scene with no warning and bam, you're dead. And that counts as a full death, so that means you're getting nothing above a silver if you're lucky. So because of this, you basically always need to be on alert during a cutscene, so you can't really use these scenes to relax like you're supposed to. Not to mention the most you have for one of these I think is like a second and a half, so yeah, prepare to be blindsided by these a lot. While we're on that, the game can be a bit unforgiving at certain points, such as these quick time events and some enemies that really can get frustrating.
Screw you, Quicksand Glory. They always come in pairs. Quick time never works on up, even when you dodge. They attack you always when you're finally getting a combo going, and the end of the game just loves throwing them everywhere and...
Yeah, to save your sanity, just do a torture attack on the red one, get the weapon, and then use it on the blue guy. Trust me, it's gonna be the most stress-free way to fight them. If you don't have magic though, whoo boy, you are in for a time. But honestly, in general, Bayonetta can be pretty rough on ya. It's not the hardest game in the world, but it isn't afraid to randomly pound you to the ground at a moment's notice. And not helping that is how the item system is handled. Anytime you use an item, whether it's a power-up or even basic healing, it counts against you at the end of the tally. And even using 2 healing items is the same punishment as a full death, and because of that, don't be surprised to get a lot of stone your first playthrough and get no bonuses as a result. Now true, you can lower the difficulty down to easy or very easy, but this almost makes the game go a bit too quick for my liking. Also, if you do these 2 difficulties, please unequip this item right away, otherwise it does all the combos for you. And Bayo just kinda flies all over the place with no real rhyme or reason, and you basically can't control anything that happens in a fight besides dodging. It's really not the way to play. Seriously, just don't do it. And finally, there are some sections that do change the gameplay up, such as riding a motorcycle or riding on a missile. These are fun, but I think they just stay a little too long. If you shaved a minute or 2 off of them, I think they would be fine. Especially the missile riding one. Seriously, that one lasts way too long. And I think it goes without saying, but if you're the type of person who gets even slightly disturbed by blood or sexual themes, Bayonetta is not the game for you. Though, I don't think that should be a problem for most of you who've gotten to this point in the video, so Bayonetta really is a fun game. There's a lot of replay value, a ton of engaging fights, and a style that's so crazy and over the top that it demands your attention. But I do feel like there are just a few things that hold it back from being fantastic, such as the story, the enemies like Grace and Glory, and the awkward design to the difficulty and a certain changing section. If those were cleaned up a little bit more, I think this would be an absolute recommendation for anyone. That being said, however, I still do highly recommend playing Bayonetta if you're into this genre and haven't tried it out yet, because you really are missing out on one of the craziest roller coaster rides you can try right now. Thanks for watching, guys. Before we end things off, 1. The Kirby Marathon. It's still happening. I just haven't had the time to work on it for the last few months, but I will try to get back on it as soon as I can. And 2, when am I reviewing Bayonetta 2? Either next Halloween, or when Bayonetta 3 gets announced, or is about to come out, or something like that. And if this was your first time here and you like my stuff, consider subscribing or backing me on Patreon to make these reviews possible and more frequent. Thanks guys, and happy Halloween!